Hey, welcome to the Learning Drummer channel. Listen, this is the second groove video out of 3 that we're doing. Today, the focus is largely on the hi-hat. So, stay tuned. There's a lot of information coming your way. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is the sound quality is not going to be great today. I'm having some problems with my DAW. So that's a digital audio workstation. So anyway, you're going to get fair quality, but not great. So anyway, back to the hi-hat. The hi-hat is the most complex instrument out of the entire drum set. It has more possibilities for tone and sound than anything else. So, that said, we're focusing on it. Not only does it have tonal sound differences, but you also have the ability to hit it with sticks, or you have the ability to control with your foot, or you can combine the two, and that's where it gets really kind of tricky. So, if you were to hit the hi-hat and have the cymbal be wide open and then close, it sounds like this. Or if you were to hit the hi-hat and have it closed but only open a little bit, it sounds like this. So, using this one, which is closed, I'm going to show you there is the edge of the cymbal to hit, there is the crown as I call it, and then there's the small or the narrow and the bell. Okay, in that demo, the foot was not engaged. In other words, the lock was turned off and it was just gravity of the top cymbal on the bottom cymbal. Now, if you were to engage your foot and have the lock in place, you can control the sound and have it by pressing down with your foot and applying pressure. You're going to have a much tighter sound on any one of the aforementioned surfaces. So, when it comes to a groove, you want to have consistency in what you're producing as a sound. You can have a sound where you have open to closed, let's say from the end of 1 to 2. But on the end of 3 to 4, you're going to have it tighter, that second sound that we just demoed. So you're going to have the open on the end of 1 to 2, and then slightly open on the end of 3 to 4. But you have to be consistent all the way through every time you do that, every measure. So if you do it every measure, that's great, but there are some forms of music like freeform or jazz fusion where you get a lot more creativity. You don't have to have that same type of thing. But I would recommend it if you're in the head of a song, even in jazz fusion, that you have a groove that has a repeatable pattern. So how you repeat it, what you're repeating, that's your call, but therein lies how a groove is really done. And some fusion, you don't really want a groove. It's just free form, but anyway. That's up to you. That's up to the composer of the music. That's for an artistic touch to come in. All right, now we're going to talk about 16th notes on the hi-hat. Unfortunately, this was made popular in the disco period. I know that term just really doesn't sit well. In any case, it's much more difficult than what one would think. And I've talked about this in other videos. 16th notes in your hands have to be identical hits with 16th notes, whether it's your hand slipping over to a snare drum or a tom or whatever, and your feet. And with the advent of double pedals and 16th notes, you've got to make sure that you're right. So 16th note to 16th note between the hand and feet, dead on. If you're doing 32nd notes in your feet, you've got to be in sync with the 16th notes on the hands. So it's more difficult than you would think. And at the same time, now you're going to introduce an open-closed hi-hat. So you've got to have that repeatable pattern. That's what people want to hear for a groove at this point in time. As an aside from the groove discussion, when you're doing 16th notes, sometimes when you're looking at an accent that's going to be on the E or the and. So let's say your right hand is doing the downbeat or 1, and then the and as well. So you're going to 1, now 2 and 4 is accented naturally onto the drum. So I'm just going to use the floor tom here for demonstration. You got the idea. Okay, so if you have an accent or a kick that's coming in on the E or the that means your left hand has to move. If you're doing that on the hi-hat on your primary side, be it the left or right side, and you have to move your other hand over or under to get to that E and it can become messy. And the sound can become messy because you no longer are hitting in the same area of the snare drum. When you shoot that other hand over, it might hit on the nearer to the edge and give you a whole different tone than what's in the center. So that said, the cure for that is an inline double stroke, just like what we've learned in paradiddles. But if you don't do a paradiddle, if you just do a diddle or an inline double, you're going to have that right hand, the dominant hand, be able to move over for that E or and then a double stroke to bring it back onto the downbeat or the pulses. So here's a demonstration. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, so back to groove. As we've learned, you want to have 2 different tonal sources in a groove, or you're going to have an accent and a non-accented in a groove. And to do that, as we've discussed before, you have 2 different places that you hit on the hi-hat, whether you're hitting on the crown and edge, or as in the case of molar. Now, I'm by no means a molar expert. I'm telling you what I have gleaned from it. I have sort of switched over to molar from having years of traditional and years of American matched grip. So if I'm talking out of school here, I'm sorry, but hey, that's what I understand a molar. So whether you're doing it with your forearm and movement of your wrist, or whether you're doing it side to side, you're getting 2 different sounds. I frankly have 2 different hi-hats, as you've probably noticed. I have this one, the Sabian, which is closed all the time, and the Zildjians over here, which can be closed or opened, depending on what I want. But by playing them side by side, or in 16th note patterns, I'm getting those 2 sounds, especially since this is more of a metal sound for metal music, versus it's higher pitched. Here's a demo. Okay, we haven't talked about the integration of the foot with 16th notes. You can do that by simply opening and closing your hi-hat between, or having your foot do 1, 2, 3, 4, So when your foot is doing that, of course, the hi-hat opens in between the downbeats or in between the pulses. So how much of that opens in between the pulses is up to you. You can have it be not existent or have it wide open, whatever it is that you want. Consistency, though, is the factor here. Continuing on with the foot, you can also have it just hold time. A lot of jazz players used to do this a lot. You just have your straight swing with your 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. Or, as in this case, which I had to pull this out from the archives, and it's been a long time since I've done this groove, so bear with me on this. You can have the hi-hat hitting on the ands and the bell of the cymbal on 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is a sort of parody, I guess, of Little Feat's Waiting for Columbus. Anyway, here we go. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about today is tonal sources. You've got all these different tonal sources. They all have different points within to be touched or hit. As we talked about with the hi-hat, the cymbal has the same. A drum has center and edge. You can hit 2 different tones. It's all the way around the drums. So, that said, you can have a groove that is just tom-based. Of course you can. You know that. And so, using a Gary Chaffee stick exercise and my 3 toms, here's an example of a groove that's just on the toms. Another way to play that same type of groove is where the notes are ghosted on this drum, you can roll them. And so you have a ghosted roll note and then accents on the toms. Okay, so to just recap a little bit about the second groove video, what we have learned is that you need to have repeatable patterns. Your use of dynamics greatly decrees what that groove is going to be like. Your use of the hi-hat does as well, and then tonal sources. So for the next video, the third and last in the groove series, is we're going to focus on fills. How to create them, how to use them, and where they came from as far as within the music, the way that the music is accented, or the way that there are kicks in the music. So come back for that one. I think you're going to enjoy it as well. And here again, if you like what you see, if this is beneficial in the very least, subscribe. It encourages me. Thanks, and may God bless you in your musical journey.